Thank you for joining us for our monthly webinar series from Local Market Monitor, where we take a closer look at this month's National Economic Outlook, which was written by Local Market Monitor's president, Ingo Windsor. For those of you that don't know Ingo, he's been analyzing real estate markets for over 30 years and is a graduate of MIT and Boston University. He's not your typical economist and has a knack for taking complex data, extracting what is important, and providing unique insights and tangible guidance on real estate markets. So with that, I bring you Ingo and his insights on the economy.
Thanks very much, Carolyn. Every month, we look at the latest economic data to see what they can tell us about the current state of real estate markets and where they might be headed. Our underlying premise is that you make better investment decisions when you have a better idea of the economic forces that affect supply and demand. This month and the next few months, the question again is whether the economy will slide into a new recession. And that's important for investors to know, because whether or not we have a recession will determine how quickly home prices will come down. As I said last month, they're coming down in any case. Price bubbles always burst. But if the economy does well over the next few years, prices will come down gradually, whereas a recession will bring them down much faster. Here's one way to look at the economy, the growth of jobs. On this chart in blue is the loss of jobs during the pandemic. In red is the growth of jobs since then. It sure looks as though recent job growth has been very good, around 3% a year. Before the pandemic, job growth was only 1.5% a year. However, we do see a leveling of growth in the last few months. Is that just a natural slowing, or is something worse going on? The pandemic did two major economic things. It made a lot of jobs go away for a while, and it changed how some areas of the economy operate. Right now, when we're looking at job data, we don't know if we're looking at enduring changes or just more recovery. For example, let's look at the growth of jobs in the government sector. On the left in black is the loss of jobs during the pandemic, a very large loss. These are mainly local jobs: teachers, police, administrators, community colleges, state schools. On the right in red is the growth of jobs since the start of 2022. Not a whole lot. We see a big and continuing loss of jobs in this very large sector of the economy and very modest growth. It looks like a shift has taken place in how many jobs are needed in this part of the economy. With restaurants, it's a different story. Again, on the left, you see the pandemic job losses. But on the right, we see that restaurant jobs have been coming back at a rapid rate. People like to go to restaurants. Compared to just before the pandemic, the number of jobs at restaurants now is almost the same. But there's a limit to how much this sector can add jobs, because there are only so many restaurants people can go to. In this case, the current high level of job growth won't last much longer. Healthcare is another sector of the economy that was hit very hard by the pandemic. As with the government sector, we see the job recovery was very slow before 2022. But growth in this sector increased steadily in the past year as people resumed regular doctor's appointments and procedures. Not only have the jobs in healthcare now been recovered, it looks like healthcare will again be a growth sector of the economy as it was before the pandemic. These three examples suggest that the growth of jobs right now isn't a very good guide to how the economy will perform in the next year. Another point to consider is that government, restaurants, and healthcare, which account for almost 40% of all jobs in the economy, are mainly consumers of wealth, not creators. They generally only grow as fast as the population grows, or in the case of healthcare, as fast as the population ages. So let's see how well some other sectors of the economy are doing. Most important, here's a picture of job growth in business services. These services, like lawyers, accountants, programmers, cleaners, and trash pickup, are something that every business needs. It's our best measure of how well other businesses are doing, because each item is a cost that companies don't want to pay unless they really need to. It's been one of the main engines of the economy for many years. Jobs in business services recovered quickly from the pandemic and grew at 3% in the past year, a very good rate. But the rate is a little slower in the last couple of months, which may mean nothing, or it may mean a lot. We need to keep an eye on this in the next few months. Jobs in construction are doing well so far, despite higher interest rates. As are jobs in manufacturing. And jobs in finance. It's too early to see the possible effects of high interest rates in these sectors because the jobs reflect projects that were started some time ago. Jobs in retail also recovered quickly from the pandemic. People like ordering from Amazon, but they also like to visit real stores. The slower growth in recent months, however, may well be an early sign that consumer spending isn't very strong. Finally, let's look at a couple of statistics that are fundamental to the growth of the US economy and to the strength of real estate markets. I've shown this chart before, but it's a fact that we're not used to, and it will affect how the economy functions in the future. The US population used to grow at least 1% a year. Now it's not even half as much. The economy can't work the way it has for decades if the population is flat. I don't pretend to know how it will change, but it will change, and probably not for the better. If the pie isn't growing, there'll be more fighting for every share. Another longer trend to keep an eye on is how often people move. This chart shows the percent of people who lived somewhere else a year ago. In 2021, there was a record low 8%. 20 years ago, this rate was 15%. As fewer people move, especially if the population isn't growing, there's less activity in real estate markets. Fewer home sales, less construction, less mortgage activity. Again, I don't know what the consequences will be, but I am sure that big adjustments will be coming. That's it. In this time of uncertainty, let me plug our Investors Metro analysis, which analyzes home prices and rents, calculates investment risk, and provides strategic analysis for each local zip code. It's available for 200 different markets. It's written for investors, not economists. Thanks very much for following along. This is our National Economic Outlook. I'm Ingo Windsor.